Hello, this is your host, as always, Oswald Pendulbury, and this is, of course, the movie trivia Schmoedown analysis, as always, the only place you will find a non-establishment Schmoedown analysis. I apologize for the delay of this episode, but I was too busy giving a lecture on the movie trivia Schmoedown match of 1922, which was quite a barn burner back in the day. So, to pick off where we left off last time, we had Mark Bernardin versus Nick Scarpino. A match was Mark Bernardin won, as I predicted, actually proved himself to be quite the capable competitor. Nick Scarpino was also more than adequate, though not champion caliber. Mark Bernardin with the right questions and stock seems like he could be quite impressive. His only misses were slight, looked like just slip of the mind type, which could be quite a champion if he becomes more comfortable with the game. Following, we had IGN versus Nerdist Team Schmoedown, which, as I recall, was a blowout for IGN, as Nerdist proved they didn't really know much of anything, as they lost again and again, and again and again, particularly in their complete lack of knowledge in regards to biopics, believing that a film in the 50s starred Robert Downey Jr., which doesn't make a lot of sense. However, IGN easily won, and this shouldn't be taken from IGN, who could be quite the impressive, if not championship-level team, given the chance. For this was not exactly a even-keel team match. IGN's victory was more than decisive. Following that, we have the continued singles tournament. Two old pros, vets now, with Clark Wolf going into a second year of competition, versus JTE off his spectacular upset against one William the Beast Bibiani. Although this proves that was merely a scores and soundtrack related debacle rather than an actual weakness in Bibiani past scores and soundtrack. But have you even seen anyone really excel in that category? I don't believe so. Instead, we had Wolf versus JT. Now, both performed actually quite well. Wolf is back in her old form again after her last two matches where she seemed a bit less than stellar. However, she now seems to be back to the Clark Wolf that was referred to as a buzzsaw so often by the commentators. JT, though, did not perform poorly, yet he still struggles somewhat in singles. It seems he doesn't have the balance for Jeff now, and he also no longer can ask for every question to be repeated anymore, which perhaps is what gave him the victory over Bibiani. If you rewatch that match, JT certainly knew how to give himself extra time to think and to properly pronounce everything he had to pronounce. Following that, we had another team match of Tough Beats versus the Nerds Watch with Ken Knapsack and a person I only know as the Crasher. Tough Beats, unfortunately, had another tough beat, this time at the Nerds Watch hands, who proved actually quite a capable duo. Ken Knapsack, although may joke about his lack of liking films, apparently knew quite a bit about them, and he had a nice balanced partner who could perhaps get the more film style, and Ken does a good balance of the more excessively nerdy elements. Just imagine if he ever got Star Wars, that'd be quite impressive. Tough Beats did not perform poorly, except for poor the Vulture missing the immortal question of Maximus Decimus Meridius. That is unfortunate miss, and unfortunately it seems like they will be a backburner team. Hopefully they can get another victory, but no matter what, I feel they will just be someone else to play, for an up-and-coming team rather than being their potential champions themselves. They just don't quite seem to have it in them, although both players seem to be good enough on their own. I'd be interested to see how either of them fare in a singles competition. Following that, we have William the Beast Bibiani versus Elliot the Mountain Dewberry. Now, this was a match I was, looking forward to. Elliot Dewberry, quite the heel, and William Bibiani, not really a heel exactly, even though he calls himself the Beast. The match, though, Dewberry did not exactly perform most brilliantly here. It's interesting in that he's a far stronger team player than he is singles, despite his teammate never really offering too much in teams. So I don't know, maybe Dahlia just needs that support next to him, because he never performs as well in singles. Bibiani, on the other hand, proved himself a great player once again. This time, though, he didn't have to quite go the distance, because Dewberry didn't perform to the distance. But then again, Dewberry couldn't ask for every question to be repeated again and again and again and again. So Bibiani, though, still performed well, I believe only missing 2 questions. Perhaps I could dust off that Beast memorabilia I threw away in the garbage last time. So Beast is back on track. Hopefully he continues an actual domination this time, rather than a false promise. Finally, we had the most recent match of the Night Sisters versus Team Action. Neither of these teams would one describe as overly impressive. Both missed what one might refer to as obvious questions, such as Henry Jones Jr. Most people, I feel, if you're a good film fan, you'd remember that line, but apparently not. It does show you risk-taking whenever choosing one of the actor categories, or too specific of a category like Tom Hanks, is that the question writers in those cases may just look through their entire filmography and choose the most obscure questions, which has happened. And they didn't even choose mazes and monsters, but I guess that would be for the TV trivia Schmoedown. Nevertheless, Team Action won, but it was technically a decisive victory, but it was not an overwhelmingly amazing victory in themselves. I believe they each had 8 points apiece from the first round, an average of 4 points per team member. That means they have a 50-50 for the first round competition. That is not exactly stellar. I feel both of these will be neither are going to be champions. I would put money on that. Next, we have a match I am most looking forward to, of Josh McCougar, the Wild Man, versus Jeff the Schneider. Another revenge, as McCougar takes on yet another member of the increasingly less impressive The Lions Den, who technically shouldn't even be team champs anymore, to be completely honest. Here we have McCougar, who is always more impressive than you might guess, against Schneider, who, like Elliot Dewberry, often requires that team support, strangely enough, as his single matches aren't nearly as impressive. However, I feel Schneider could win this one, as McCougar sometimes has those off matches where he completely loses, and this could be that turnaround here. I'm actually going to predict Schneider for the McCougar loss moment. Although he is playing extraordinarily well, perhaps he's studying his films, side watching Kiss of the Spider-Man Woman, I would not put it past him. By his recent performances have been quite good. So I'm going to guess Schneider wins. But I would not be surprised if the Wild Man pulls yet another upset in his rather notable ability. Again, McCougar, by his willingness to guess where other people do not guess, and technically they are educated guesses, despite people making jokes at McCougar's expense, he's willing to make that guess. It is rare that you ever find McCougar just saying, I don't know. He'll make the guess, and therefore sometimes you can get those answers just by deciphering the question long enough, which McCougar did successfully. That is my prediction, Schneider, but watch out for McCougar. That is the movie trivia analysis. As always, my name is Oswald Pendulbury.